My name is Don Mercer. In this video, we will look at some basic drying calculations. Financial support for production of this series of video presentations was provided by the Széchenyi Society, founders of the Hungarian programs at the University of Toronto. The Széchenyi Society's sponsorship is gratefully acknowledged. I would personally like to thank Dr. Ph.D, professional engineer and fellow of the International Academy of Food Science and Technology, who is a professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering and Applied Chemistry at the University of Toronto. Dr. Ph.D.'s considerable efforts in coordinating this project are greatly appreciated. The material in these video presentations is based on an ebook published in November of 2014. Its title is An Introduction to the Dehydration and Drying of Fruits and Vegetables. It is available on the International Union of Food Science and Technology website, which can be accessed at www.FIAFoST.org. We will begin by reviewing some basic moisture calculations and then take a look at some problem-solving techniques. Once we have done this, we'll do some drying calculations and finish up with some summary comments. By way of review, the moisture content of fresh fruits and vegetables is an important consideration for anyone who is about to dry them. This tells you how much moisture is present at the start and allows you to calculate how much water you need to remove in a particular drying operation. Usually, the moisture content of materials is expressed as a percentage on a weight basis. For example, papayas have a wet basis moisture content of around 87% on a weight basis. This means that 87% of the weight of a given sample of papayas is water. Since the total sample constitutes 100%, we know that the remaining 13% of the papayas is something else. The remaining 13% is solids. An easy way to think of the composition of fruits and vegetables is, if it isn't water, it's solids, or if it isn't solids, it's water. These solids are sugars, fiber, and other carbohydrates, as well as proteins, fats, and minor constituents. This tells us that the total weight of a sample is equal to the weight of the water plus the weight of the solids, or 100% is equal to the percent water plus the percent solids on a weight basis. So let's rewrite this and do a set of calculations. The percent water plus the percent solids is equal to 100%. From this we know that the percent solids will be equal to 100% minus the percent water, or the percent water will be equal to 100% minus the percent solids. These relationships will be the basis of numerous calculations for drying work. The percent water is defined as being the weight of the water divided by the total weight of the material times 100%. To find the weight of water in a sample, you can take the total weight of the sample and multiply it by the water content expressed as a decimal fraction. This is also called the wet basis moisture. So what is the percent water in a sample of papayas weighing 25.50 grams if the sample contains 22.14 grams of water? Or what is the wet basis moisture content of a sample of papayas weighing 25.50 grams if the sample contains 22.14 grams of water? This is the same problem stated in two slightly different ways. The percent water is equal to the weight of the water divided by the total weight, and then we multiply this decimal fraction by 100%. So we take the value 22.14 grams of water and divide it by the weight of the sample, which is 25.50 grams, multiply that by 100%, and get 86.82% water in the sample. So this tells us the water content as a percentage by weight. Now we're asked to find how much water and solids are present in 650 grams of fresh papayas if their moisture content is 87% by weight. The weight of the water will be equal to the weight of the sample times the moisture content as a decimal fraction. So we take the weight of the sample, 650 grams, multiply it by 87% as a decimal fraction, which is 0.87, and the result is 565.5 grams of water in the sample. If there is 87% water in the papaya sample, there will be 13% solids, and we obtain that by applying this equation shown on the slide. The weight of the solids will be equal to the weight of the sample, 650 grams, times the solids content expressed as a decimal fraction, 0.13, and that gives us 84.5 grams of solids in the sample. You can also calculate the weight of solids in another way. You need to remember the relationship that the total weight is equal to the weight of the water plus the weight of the solids. So we'll rewrite this at the top of the slide, and from this we will derive the relationship that the weight of solids will be equal to the total weight minus the weight of the water, and that's 650 grams total minus 565.5 grams of water, which leaves us with 84.5 grams of solids, and that agrees with the answer obtained from the other method. The following table lists the representative wet basis moisture contents of fruits and vegetables which you may encounter. These values are reliable averages. The actual moisture content of samples you use may vary from these values due to seasonal variations, differences in growing conditions, and a host of other factors. However, you can use these values in the table when you do not have an actual value for the samples that you have in your possession. You can see here that the wet basis moisture content of apples is 84% on a weight basis. Also looking at this part of the chart, we see that green peas have 74% moisture. Moving down the list, jalapeno peppers have 94% wet basis moisture, and Scotch bonnet peppers have 87% wet basis moisture. Herbs are a slightly different story. The wet basis moisture will vary depending upon the actual nature of the herbal material itself. In this final portion of the table, we see that tomatoes have a wet basis moisture content of 94%, and some tomatoes will actually have a slightly higher moisture content on a wet basis, as we will discuss in a moment. The wet basis moistures for other materials may be found online by searching for that particular product. Now let's discuss some problem-solving techniques. First, you should read the question thoroughly. You may need to read it several times to be sure that you understand it. In real-life situations, you should define your problem clearly so that you can then define your objectives. And above all, draw a diagram of the system. I cannot emphasize the importance of this enough. Label your diagram and insert the things that you know on it. Identify what you don't know and what you need to find. Then try to establish relationships between the known and unknown quantities. You can set up the mathematical equations that you will need for solving the problem at this point. You should approach your problem in a stepwise and organized manner. Use dimensional analysis. This is a valuable problem-solving technique that makes use of the dimensions in all of your calculation steps. And above all, do not panic. Let's take a look at sample problem number 1. You are asked to calculate the change in the wet basis and dry basis moistures if you have 125 kilograms of jalapeno peppers and you remove 75 kilograms of water during a drying operation. You are also told that at the start the jalapeno peppers have a wet basis moisture content of 94%. You only need a very simple diagram for calculation questions such as this. We will begin by drawing a rectangle which represents the dryer. Going into the dryer, we have the initial material. This has a weight of 125 kilograms and a moisture content of 94% on a wet basis. Coming out of the dryer, we have the dried material. It has an unknown weight and an unknown moisture. However, we also know a little bit about the water stream that's coming out of the dryer as water vapor. The water will weigh 75 kilograms, since we are told that 75 kilograms of water are removed in the drying process. We will begin by calculating the water and solids that are present in the initial material. If the percent water is 94%, then the percent solids will be 6%, based on the relationship that the percent water plus the percent solids have to equal 100%. At the start, the weight of the water is going to be equal to 125 kilograms times 94% water as a decimal fraction, and that gives us 117.5 kilograms of water. The weight of the solids will be equal to 125 kilograms times 6% as a decimal fraction, which gives us 7.5 kilograms of solids at the start. Or we could say that the weight of solids is equal to the initial weight of the material, 125 kilograms, minus the 117.5 kilograms of water, and this too gives us 7.5 kilograms of solids. At the start, we can calculate the dry basis moisture. This is equal to the weight of the water divided by the weight of the solids. In our case, it's 117.5 kilograms of water divided by 7.5 kilograms of solids, and that equates to 15.67 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. Now let's take a look at what happens after removing 75 kilograms of water. The weight of material that will be left is the original weight of 125 kilograms minus the 75 kilograms of water that have been removed, and that leaves us with 50 kilograms of material after the drying process. The weight of water will be equal to the 117.5 kilograms of water at the start minus the 75 kilograms of water removed, which gives us 42.5 kilograms of water in the material after the water removal. The weight of the solids will remain constant since no solids are lost in the drying process, and this value will be equal to 7.5 kilograms. The percent wet basis moisture will be equal to the weight of water that's present divided by the total weight of the material times 100%, which is 42.5 kilograms of water divided by 50.0 kilograms of material times 100%, and that's equal to 85.0% wet basis moisture. The dry basis moisture will be equal to the weight of the water divided by the weight of the solids, and that's equal to 42.5 kilograms of water divided by 7.5 kilograms of solids, and that works out to 5.67 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. Now let's do a comparison of the changes that have taken place. The change in the wet basis moisture is equal to the 94% initial wet basis moisture minus 85% as the final wet basis moisture, and this difference is 9.0%. The change in the dry basis moisture is equal to 15.67 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids at the start, minus 5.67 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids after the drying has taken place, and this works out to 10.0 kilograms of water being removed from each kilogram of dry solids. Now take a look at the size of each one of these changes. In the case of the wet basis moisture, we notice that for all of the water that was removed, we only got a 9.0% change in the wet basis moisture. However, the dry basis moisture changed by 10.0 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. Restating this, note how the removal of 75 kilograms of water from 125 kilograms of jalapeno peppers with an initial moisture content of 94% only gave a wet basis moisture change of 9.0%. However, the change in the dry basis moisture content was a loss of 10 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. The wet basis moisture change is rather deceptive, so don't get fooled by the small size of the wet basis moisture change. At high percent moistures, even a large change in the actual weight of water can have only a small effect on the wet basis moisture change. Before leaving this topic, let's take a look at another sample problem where we are dealing with 100 kilograms of tomatoes having a moisture content of 95%. And some tomatoes actually do have a moisture content that is this high. We are asked to compare the final wet basis and dry basis moistures if 50 kilograms of water are removed. So the first thing we do is draw a diagram. We'll represent the dryer with this rectangle. Going into the dryer, we have the initial material. This consists of 100 kilograms of tomatoes with a moisture content of 95% by weight. Coming out of the dryer, we have the dried material. It has an unknown weight and an unknown moisture. However, we do know something about the amount of water that's removed, and that is that we are removing 50 kilograms of water in the process. So now we can move on and try to solve the problem. The dry basis moisture of these tomatoes at the start will be equal to the weight of water divided by the weight of the solids, which is 95 kilograms of water divided by 5 kilograms of solids, and that is equal to 19 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. Now let's remove 50 kilograms of water from the initial 100 kilograms of tomatoes. The weight of the tomatoes after the water removal will be 50 kilograms. The weight of water that will be present is the initial 95 kilograms of water minus the 50 kilograms of water that we are removing, which will leave us with 45 kilograms of water after the drying process. The weight of the solids will remain constant at 5 kilograms since no loss of solids will occur during the drying. The percent wet basis moisture after drying will be equal to 45 kilograms of water divided by 50 kilograms total weight of the material times 100%, which is equal to 90.0% wet basis moisture. The dry basis moisture will be equal to the weight of water, 45 kilograms, divided by the weight of dry solids, 5.0 kilograms, and this gives us 9.0 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. Note that we have removed half the initial weight of the tomatoes, yet we have only decreased the wet basis moisture content by 5.0%. However, the dry basis moisture content was reduced by 10 kilograms of water per kilogram of dry solids. In summary, this video has provided examples of how to perform calculations pertaining to a variety of water removal scenarios. Such calculations are quite useful in actual drying tests using small-scale dryers. These calculations will also enable you to determine the water removal demands on a dryer with a given feed. Before progressing to calculations involving rates of drying and drying kinetics, you should have a thorough understanding of how to do calculations such as those presented here. Thank you very much.